All right. All right, Joe. Can you introduce yourself to the people that are listening to this podcast as of now?
Sure thing. My name is Joe Prillaman. I really appreciate you having me on the show.
Oh yeah.
I've been kind of doing the whole, gosh, I don't really know a great way to introduce myself, but long story short, I've been doing real estate now for a while and I just really love it and happy to be here and try to add any value I can.
Nice. How long have you been doing real estate? You say a while.
I guess a while is not a great way to describe it, but I bought my first house in June of 2018, and then from there we've been scaling and growing, and today we're at 21 properties, 16 doors, and rocking and rolling.
Nice, nice. 16 doors. That's awesome. Now, what is your beginnings like,
Oh
right?
wait, swap that. 16 properties, 21 doors.
Oh shit. Okay, okay,
Screwed it
okay.
up.
There you go. And for you, right, starting out, did you always thought like, yeah, I'm gonna invest into real estate, like as you're like a wee lad, or like how did that come about? Did you want to become an astronaut, or did you just want to become a real estate investor from the get-go? How did that work?
Man, it was out of necessity. So my wife and I currently, so we dated all through high school and college, and we actually we skipped graduation because we were like, we gotta walk down the aisle anyway, might as
Mhm.
well walk down the aisle together. And so we got married right out of college. I called my dad. I told him I was starving, and he said, been waiting for this call, son. Threw me in a truck and had me selling industrial equipment across the Southeast United States. So I covered 13 states and I was selling industrial equipment, and I was had to figure out a way out of it. And so that was the main thing that like drove me to like, I got to find some way to get to financial freedom, because I was like, I can't be in this car forever, because I was gone for three of the first, I was gone for a month and a half of the first 3 months we were married. And
Okay.
I
Wow.
got that call from my wife. She's like, this isn't going to happen.
Now, so are you still married right now, or are you like,
Yes. Still
okay,
married.
okay, okay, okay,
Yep.
just making sure. And for you, for you, uh, so what age was that realization? Like, hey, this is not gonna work out. This selling all this like industrial stuff. Was that like, what age would that be?
So, I started that job when I was 22, and by 24, I was like, I'm gonna die here. It was pretty much like I've got to find a way to not do this and not be on the road all the time, because that's all I
Okay.
knew. I knew like I was driving around the country, and my brother-in-law actually shared the Bigger Pockets podcast with me,
Okay.
and I just got absolutely obsessed with it. I mean, I literally listened to every single podcast from number one all the way through to today. And I mean, I wrote down every book they did and was just like, I've got to learn everything I possibly can. And so 2 years of doing that, reached out to a guy on Bigger Pockets. You've had him on your show, Alex Felice.
Yeah.
And he held my hand through my very first deal. And after I did that, man, it was off for the races.
Okay. Now that you shouted out bigger pockets, okay. What what's your favorite quick tip from them?
Ooh, favorite quick tip. It was from, I think, episode 3.
God.
Brandon Turner came on there and said, quick tip, you can turn the podcast up to 1.5 speed. And it changed my life.
See, that's how it is. That's how it is right there. And why didn't you choose college, right? A lot of people they're like, yeah, go to college right away. You'll learn, you'll get a better job, you'll get something out of there. Why didn't you choose college?
I did.
Okay.
Instead of, yeah, so I graduated high school, went to UNCW down
Okay.
here in Wilmington, North Carolina. And yeah, did 4 years there, graduated, and immediately went and started working for my dad.
Nice. And was that worth it? Was college worth it at all to you?
That is a great question. Um, for me, definitely was worth it, but it was worth it mainly because of the relationships I built and the experiences I had through college. It
Yeah.
wasn't anything from like a financial standpoint or from a learning standpoint. It was strictly just from the people that I met and the um, just kind of the trials you went through during that time of just like learning and getting thrown into different social settings. And it was very impactful for me, but I don't know if I would necessarily go back, if that makes sense.
Okay. Now, let's say uh for someone that is either 18 they're in their 30s, right? They're in financial suicide, meaning that they're either starting out fresh, where they got to choose college, they got to choose a job, they got to choose something, or um someone that just filed bankruptcy and they're like, okay, I gotta start somewhere, I gotta start fresh again. what is your best advice for them uh in their scenario?
Starting fresh, like
Yeah,
from
starting
ground
fresh.
zero, and the whole goal here is to
Yeah,
generate income.
yeah, generate income and be financially free.
Oh, definitely don't go to college. You don't need to go to college to generate income. It's ridiculous. Go get a trade, be a welder, be a plumber. But I mean, the real key there is you just have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. You got to do the hard stuff that nobody else wants to do. And like, I'm just a really big fan of early financial freedom, getting to that point where you can make that decision to find out what you really want to do. And
Mhm.
I really do believe that real estate's the best way to do that.
Yeah,
And I mean, people just don't like being uncomfortable and they don't want to do the hard stuff. And so, I mean, it's as simple as doing a house hack, like getting a good job so you're lendable, buy a property that's got multiple units that you can rent out, live in one unit, rent out the other, and continually do that. And so few people will even do that, that it's just shocking to me.
nice. Yeah, that's what I've seen as well. Like people don't want to take action. They're kind of scared, and that helps us out in a way. But it's kind of like if you want to be in a way like a friend or someone that's connected to me, you got to take risk, right? Risk is
Mm.
what's going to take you further. And for you, once you found out bigger pockets, all right, did you said you met up with Alex, and how did that go? How did the networking part reach out?
Man, so I literally just shot him a direct message on Bigger Pockets and just said, "Hey, man, like I've been watching what you're doing. I want to do it. Would you mind like meeting up with me?" And of course, he told me no. And it's like, "Nah, screw you, man. I don't want to talk to you." But eventually, he was just like, "You know what? Fine. Like, let's hop on a Zoom call. Let's just talk." And like, he literally was just like, "Let me show you kind of like what I'm doing." Like, he asked me a bunch of questions, and then he just kind of held my hand through that whole first process and like continually was just like, hey, like, why are you letting this stop you? Like, go out there and get this done. And so
Mhm.
he was a great resource. He let me throw stuff against him, and like he was willing to share his knowledge and really kind of throw that rope down to me so I could start climbing. And then that was really like the little hump to get me over it, of where I was just like, I can do this. It's not that difficult. I've got the knowledge from like sitting in the car and listening to all the podcasts. Like, it truly is like if it was all about knowledge, then we would all be millionaires with six packs.
Yeah,
They used to say that constantly, and now like I very much understand the whole like you have to physically do it, learn those lessons, and that's one reason why I love to help people get started. Like people reach out to me a good bit now too of just like, hey, how do you do this, and how do you get here? And I like to give my time back to help people get up there.
nice, nice. I actually like that. The millionaire with the six pack. I forgot they always used to say that all the time. Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah, it's a deep cut.
now, when you done meeting up with him and all, uh, what exactly did you learn from like your first deal, the one in Wilmington, right? The one that you bought.
So the very first deal actually was in Fayetteville. It was a burr.
Okay,
Did the delayed financing method. Just buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. And I'd say the number one thing I learned was that it was possible. It was
okay,
like, okay, like I can actually do this. Like I remember walking in the door, and like the day before we're closing that day, we were gonna go drive to the lawyer's office, and it was like walking into it and looking at it and just going, I'm making the biggest mistake ever, because it was a VA foreclosure that was on
mhm,
the MLS, and we paid $43,000 for this house. And I'm looking at it like I'm going to literally lose everything that I have, because I was borrowing private money at the time to do these deals. And so I didn't have any money myself. I was completely broke. And it was like, what have I gotten myself into? Like, absolutely freaking out. I just remember being so stressed about the whole process. But I just had a great support team that was like, hey,
nice.
like, here's how you do it. This is what it's going to look like. And we're going to walk through it, and made it happen.
Now, where'd you get the funding for all this stuff? I know you did. You say you bought it for $43,000,
Mm-hmm.
and you put a rehab for almost $14,000.
Yep,
Uh,
about that.
how did all that? How did you get the funding for all that? In that moment.
So I'd been selling again industrial equipment for the
Hmm.
last 2 years, and the cool part about that is I do these really large trips with my dad, and my dad is like one of my biggest supporters. Like I'm so thankful for him, like being in my life and like believing in me and supporting me in that. But he actually lent me the original money to do my very first deal, and then from that I was able to like essentially after 10 weeks we did the delayed financing method. I was able to pay him back 100% of his investment. And right at that point in time is when we had like something happen with the company where it was like, hey, might not be selling industrial equipment forever.
Okay.
And he was concerned about like leaving a legacy behind for me because he was like, this was his company. Like, he had employed me to like help him sell industrial equipment for these other companies. And he kind of saw the writing on the wall and was like, you need to go out there and figure out how to do this more because of what you just created. And from there, we just kind of partnered together and kept it rolling.
Nice. And what do most people not real? What did you learn from your first deal? Just from you that a lot of people just don't understand.
What do you mean?
Like, I guess the numbers, or it could be how long it took, or what your thought process were. What was your thought process first getting in there? Like, hey, this is gonna be easy. I read it on the books. It sounds super easy. And then at the end, you were like, fuck, right? Or like you're like, oh, I didn't count for that number because
Yeah.
you're what are you you're cash flowing like almost like $140 out of there.
Yep, that was it. It was vacancy, capital expenditures, maintenance, property management. I was trying to make $150 a month, and
Okay.
that one went super smooth across the board. Actually, like we really didn't hit any hiccups. It was more of just like I mean, it was the just cleanest T-ball hit you could have done. It all worked out perfectly. We didn't go over budget. It appraised where it was supposed to. We refinanced the whole thing out, and it was kind of that like initial home run to be like, hey, this actually works. We can do this. And then from there, we just hit the ground running.
Nice. And did you put your own sweat equity into this, or did you just hire contractors to do
Hired
all this?
contractors.
Okay.
Yep. So,
Now,
and since I was still like traveling and working, like I didn't have the time to drive up there and do all this work myself.
yeah.
We contracted it all out, and yeah, it's been great.
Okay. What's the biggest thing that you learned from this one deal?
Again, that it was possible.
It's
That
possible.
like
Okay.
that was the main thing. It's like I had the knowledge already built up from just learning as much as I possibly could, and from networking and like meeting people. And like at the time, I also host like a little meetup in Wilmington, and
Hmm.
I was trying to like tell everyone what I was doing. Just like this is what I am, this is what I'm trying to do, and just getting people in the room to learn whatever I could. Like truly just trying to be a sponge in that time of just learn everything I possibly could so that I could be successful in this, so I could essentially buy my financial freedom.
Okay. Nice. And how much did you have after you paid off your dad, and now that you have the property, you say you refied. How much did you have in your bank account at that moment? If you want to say, because it kind of better
Sure.
explains to the people like, okay, this is real. You know what I mean? It can happen.
Yeah, I think I had like 5 grand or something
Five
like
grand.
that
Okay.
total. It was all said and done. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm broke in this situation
Yeah.
too. It was like we were creating equity in these properties, and like that property had $20,000 equity in it, and I was like, this is like, you know, almost 4 times my entire net worth at the
Yeah.
time. And so we were just completely shocked by it because it's like I was like most people, just living month to month at the time, and my wife was working and I was working, and we were just trying to make it.
Nice. And how long did it take you to get your second property?
After we bought that one, we ended up buying 4 more in Fayetteville over the next year
Fuck.
of just
How did that happen?
grabbing it and run. It was the burr, man. Like we were taking the same capital and just recycling it as we went. And then all the money that we would generate from real estate, that extra $150 a month, we just kept putting it aside. And as the income continued to grow, like we just threw everything we had back into real estate. And then from there, it's like, it's kind of funny because Alex got on the Bigger Pockets podcast. And when he did that, all the prices went up overnight, probably 10 grand. It was just ridiculous because everyone flooded the market. And so from there, I was like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Like, we can't continually buy these because it's a Ponzi scheme. I didn't have like actual capital to invest into these.
Yeah.
And so I was like, we got to find something else. And so same thing, I reached out to another guy on Bigger Pockets, and he was living on Carolina Beach for free. He's a guy named Clint Harris. And he showed me who he was doing there. Was like, hey man, like I'm house hacking out here, living for free, and I can walk to the beach. And that was kind of the big light bulb of like, I need to be doing this Airbnb thing. I was able to convince my wife to house hack with us, so we actually bought a beach house and lived in the top and Airbnb the bottom. And that was the real kicker of like, hey, like now we can do something to really springboard ourselves into a place where we could invest at a greater level.
Nice. And for now, what are you doing with your real estate game right now, for further properties? Are you finding like those burrs that you did before, or is it more like, God, it's kind of difficult to find properties that are in that level and that can give you the ARV that you want?
Oh yeah. So the name of the game for me has been short-term rentals since then. And so like this last year, we brought on 7 short-term rentals and a midterm rental. And so I went and actually got my real estate license, and I work for Avery Carl with a short-term shop. And so
Nice.
I let's continually put myself in positions to get lucky is really what happened. I just kept putting myself in rooms with people that I wanted to be like. I joined the David Green Mastermind, got to meet all those guys, and that's actually where I met Avery. And I got my license back in 2020, and then I started selling real estate for other investors so I could generate as much capital as I could to throw back into more deals. Like that was really the name of the game. Like still to this day, it's just generate as much income as we possibly can, take it, reinvest it back into properties, and try to keep our living expenses as low as possible.
Nice. And when did you start seeing actual profits? Like it's like, okay, we're kind of doing well as for yourself and your wife. Like, hey, is it the sixth property? Is it a fourth property? Like when did were you like, okay, we're good now?
That's a great question. So I'd say that we really hit kind of that financial freedom mark after about 3 years of doing it. So back right kind of when I turned into right when I was turning 29 is whenever we initially hit that financial freedom mark. But
Mhm.
it wasn't like a passive financial freedom. It was very much like, okay, we've got short-term rentals. Like, yes, we could scale back and like just focus on managing this portfolio, but like that really wasn't my dream. Like that's not what I want to do. Like I wanted to build businesses that provide jobs and like take care of people and really build a larger empire. Was kind of the drive that I had for it. And so we just started buying as many short-term rentals as we could. I was knocking on doors. I was talking to owners. I was buying them on the MLS. Like anything I can do to get my hands on another property, that was the name of the game. And so now we've been doing it for 4.5 years now, and that's still what we're doing.
Nice. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm gonna put you in a scenario, right?
hit me with it.
Your all your properties are gone, right? And you let's say no wife, right? Nothing, no, you have no connections, right? Uh,
Okay.
so I put $20,000 in your bank account because a lot of people, that I've been hearing around has like 20K in their bank account and they just have saved up and you want to invest in real estate. What's your move?
Hmm. My number one move is still the classic tried and true house hack. Like I'm gonna go out and try and get the best W-2 job I possibly can so I can be lendable. And then I'm gonna go try and buy a single family home with an ADU so I can do a 5% down conventional loan. I'm gonna probably live in the ADU, or since I'm single now, I'm gonna live in a van in the driveway, and I'm gonna rent out the ADU and the part of the house and rent out all the rooms. And um,
Can you explain what ADU is for the people that are
yeah,
listening?
it's an additional dwelling unit. So
Okay.
it's a single family home that can operate like a duplex.
Okay. Nice. And
Yeah,
you said you're gonna live van life while you're
that's
there.
it. I'm gonna live in
Okay.
the van. I'm gonna freeze to death and generate as much income as I can, and then
Okay.
just do it every year.
Do it every year until you get up there. So house hack your way up there.
That's
If
it,
you have
man.
20 grand right now. Okay, nice. See, that's an answer that I kind of want to hear. So,
Yeah,
and it works because anybody can do it. If you just have, build up to that amount, just house hack every year, and you eventually you'll have a crap ton of properties to actually start having money in your pocket, and then you can start, now fully investing into real estate. Uh, Another thing is
that's it,
like
man.
how did you go against your debt to income ratio? Because I know some banks they're like, "Oh, your debt is so high. I don't know if we can lend you." How do you counter that? I feel like a lot of real estate investors are kind of facing that.
Yeah, so I mean, I pretty much shot myself in the foot right off the bat. Like when I went and got my real estate license, like you have to be a high performing income producer to get conventional loans as a real estate agent, and so you've got to show 2 years of like high 1099 income, which is very different from in the lending world than regular W-2 income. And so I pretty much had to find other ways right off the bat. And so, real popular one right now are the DSCR loans, the debt service coverage ratio loans.
Hmm.
Used a number of those, refinance properties we bought them. I did some creative financing too. I had 2 different owner finance deals,
Nice,
and that was kind of the name of the game, as scrappy as you could get to get as many properties as I could.
gotcha. And a lot of people they're like, "Okay, Joe, I get that you're buying all these properties, but how are you finding deals at this market? Do you not see that, interest rates are high? Do you not see that there's no foreclosures? Like what's going on? How am I supposed to find these properties?"
Yeah, when I get that objection all the time. People just come in and tell me, it's like, well, it's a different time. It's harder to get in real estate. It's like all that same crap. And I'm like, okay, you can either take ownership of your life and say, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to make this happen. Or you can sit there and complain about there's no deals. That's just a huge rub. That's like, you got to get over that. You got to take some extreme ownership and go out. I'm going to knock on every single door. I'm going to talk to every single person I can. And I'm going to scour the MLS like crazy. I'm going to look on Zillow every single morning until I can find something that works. Because sure, this market might be more difficult to do that, but deals are made, they're not found. Like you can find single family homes that you can transfer to operate like a duplex. Like you just have to be more creative in a market like this and go out there and make it happen, because it's the same thing when people tell me, oh, I can't get lending. I'm like, well, you haven't called enough banks. You haven't talked to enough people. You haven't gone out and done the actual work, because no one's going to come and do the work for you. Like that's the real rub here. It's like, until you can get comfortable being uncomfortable and doing the things that nobody else will do, how do you expect to have different results?
Yeah. And same person, right? But Joe, there's so many competition here. Everybody's doing creative finance. How am I supposed to, or like creative type of investing? How am I supposed to compete with them when they already have money and I don't?
Just do it. Just get out there and do it. Because it's like there's so much opportunity out there. It's like there's so many things that can go in your favor of just talking to people. It's like, I mean, I'm living proof that that's just not the case. It's like there's so much opportunity out there that you can go and put yourself in positions to get lucky that it'll blow your mind. Like, I used to always talk about Scott Trench's book, Set for Life. Like just going out there and like mastering your own financing, mastering your own daily routines so that you can put yourself in those positions where you're going to get lucky over time. And so if you're not willing to even try, it's like, okay, you've already lost.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love crushing those mindsets, because like there's, and especially too, if you're digging into that too, it's like, I'm probably not the right person to be talking to.
No, you're the correct person talking to. Like you gave the best advice that you can to the people. Like just do it and literally stop thinking about like, I know I was in that situation as well. I'm like, wow, there's so much competition here, or there's so much how like I'm looking at Zillow. I'm like, oh my God, like these houses are way overpriced. I'm like, but you are right. There's always creative financing, right? I hate when people say, but the market's gonna crash. I always give the fishing analogy, right? Like no matter what, there's always going to be fish in the pond, right? There's always going to be fish in the pond. You might not get bites like you did like in 2009, right? You're not going to get as many bites, but you are going to get some fish. You just got to be there, play long enough, do enough cold calls. You are going to get a property or two. Just keep doing it. Just keep fishing. You'll get a fish eventually.
Oh yeah, it's the daily consistent action. Like that's truly the key to being successful in real estate, is just daily consistent action. Do one thing to get you a little bit closer to your goal every single day. And I mean, you make a really great point about the fishing analogy, that like there's always going to be fish in the pond. But people were telling me that the market was going to crash in 2018. They've been telling me that since 2020. They're telling me that now in 2022. It's like it doesn't matter, because I'm buying for cash flow, I'm securing long-term low interest debt, and I'm having adequate cash reserves. If you do those three things, you're never going to get burned in real estate.
Yeah. And I always hear that too. Like, hey, that market's gonna crash. This is gonna happen. I'm like, but yeah, but like it's like that whole thing. Like whenever your neighbors gets fired from his job, that's a recession. But whenever you're fired, that's a depression. So
that's right.
Yeah. I'm like, well, it's not really affecting me. You telling me and talking to me about it, it's kind of affecting my mindset, because maybe I did see some numbers change somewhere, but it doesn't really affect anything, right? Market's going to go up. People put in regulations that can actually like stop things from happening. Like the only reason why we had 2008, 2009 is because guess what? People were getting so many different loans that it wasn't traceable where how much they made. Like anybody can have a loan. Like I forgot what was that one movie? I forgot the movie name where basically like
the Big Short.
Yeah, the Big Short,
yeah.
where the stripper just had like 10 homes. And it's like, how does she have all these like adjustable rate mortgages? And then of course when the crash happened, she got fucked. Of course, she lost all her. I'm betting that she lost all her assets after that. And for someone that wants to get started and learn all this stuff, Joe, would you recommend them courses? What would you recommend for someone like, let's say they only have $5,000, right? They're like, hey, I saved the $5,000, and people say the best investment that you can make is to yourself So how would you go about that?
Oh man, you got a fortune if you got 5 grand. Right there off the bat. I mean, it's super simple, man. Like, I always recommend get 3 different books. Get Rich Dad Poor Dad. Get Set for Life by Scott Trench, and then get How to Invest in Real Estate by Brandon Turner and Joshua Dorkin. Like those 3 books to get you started, and then I mean, I love books. I love podcasts. Like that's kind of my obsession. I love listening to all this different material. And once you get through those 3, there's about a million more books that you can listen to.
Mhm.
Some really great ones off the top of my head. I mean, Chris Voss's Never Split the Difference. Like so many different books out there that can like really impact your life. But start with education. Like education is where you need to like set your foundation. And then from there, you just got to jump in and do it.
Nice, nice. I always say to tell people like, yeah, like audiobooks is your best friend. 3x speed or whatever you can listen to. Just get that done. Especially for podcasts too. Like I remember when I first started, I just listened to all the bigger podcasts, right?
Mm-hmm.
All the and I didn't know what they were doing, right? I was like listening. I'm like right now I know a lot of the stuff and most of it is repetitive, but you can still get 1 or 2 nuggets out of there. But at the time, I didn't know shit, right? So everything was like gold mine. It was a gold mine for me. I was like, oh, I didn't know you can do this. Oh man, this person can do it. I can do it, right? So I was going all about that. And now, a lot of people they kind of have analysis paralysis, where they're like, yeah, I gotta learn more. I gotta learn more. If I can't do it with, I need to go in with the right tools. But I I was on a not a podcast, but like a little meeting with Brandon Turner, right? I asked him this question, like, hey, what are your favorite tools, right? And he's like, well, tools don't matter at the end of the day. It's what you have and just make it work, right? He tells me like all
It's an
these
awesome
people,
answer.
they're looking for tools, but they don't understand that at the end of the day, like you're gonna have to use what you have. And if you can't even do that, how are you gonna get to how like all these people that like they have what is it, batch leads, they have prop tree, and they have all this stuff, right? These people are already doing like 10 deals a week or whatever. Um Something like outrageous like that because they're using these tools. But you can just stick with Google phone and just like county records and just call people until you find your one deal. It's because if you haven't like used the tools that you have right now for free to find these deals, how are you going to do that with like with these tools, these big guns,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
it goes like all, I forgot what it was. It was like, if you can't make your bed in the morning, well, what makes you think that you'll be able to do these bigger tasks? So again, I was the same way. I'm like, I gotta get these tools. I gotta get these tools, but it just doesn't work out because if you're not actually implementing them, if you're having analysis paralysis where you got like, oh, I got to gain more information, but even the people that I speak to that I network with, they don't know as much as I do about real estate, but they have a lot more real estate than I do. You get what I mean?
Oh
And
yeah.
it's like, bro, like how is this possible? Like I know all these tax codes, all this stuff, but they're way ahead because they're like they just took action at the end of the day. You're gonna fall in your face. Like people, it's like everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face.
That's right.
So like you have to know that you will fall on your face. Like I fell on my face many a times doing these deals. I'm like, how did this work out? I don't even know. I'm just gonna say like, hey, it worked out, okay, and walk away with a refinance of like 60K in my pocket or something, right? So
Oh yeah.
I'm like, damn, this shit worked, but how? I don't know. Let's just keep moving forward. Buy another property. Let's do it.
I love
And
it.
for you, if you can, I guess like explain what is your I guess plan now going forward with like your real estate investments, and like do you plan on growing it bigger, or do you plan on downsizing some of your properties and like doing like, oh, the 80% that you control, or like the 20/80, like the 20% of properties that you control uh you will keep, or I guess I'm saying it wrong. The 20% of the properties that make you more profit you're going to keep, and the 80% you're going to sell off that doesn't make as much profit. Are you going to do something like that, or are you just going to keep on buying and burning your properties?
A little bit mix and match of kind of both those different things. But for me, I kind of moved away from the bird properties back whenever everything kind of started getting crazy, and
Yeah.
I'd started buying in a historic vacation rental markets. So drive to markets, Carolina Beach, North Carolina, and Banner Elk, North Carolina. And so that was kind of my main thing all the way up until recently. I started buying some midterm rentals as well. But I'm still just a really big believer in that model of just continuing to buy good assets that do well. Because now, like, I've built the team, I've got the systems, like I've got 2 full-time employees that are freaking awesome. Like, they help me come in, and we just do so much work to try to make our properties the best ones out there. So we always want to kind of operate in that top 5% of the
Yeah.
Airbnb world. And so, like, and sure, expanding that out, like, we're on all the platforms now. Like, we're trying to be the best we possibly can be, but continually fighting for those 5-star reviews, like, that's really like where our niche is. We're like, you know what, we want to be the best in this, and we're going to keep doing that. And so the plan's still the same. I'd like to be up to 30 short-term rentals over the next year and a half, and not 100% sure how we're going to get there because we're at 16 right now, but and would like to mix in some midterm rentals as well to kind of diversify a little bit.
Nice. That's actually pretty. I would like to be in your situation where you can be like, hey, I'm just going to stick with the being the best, buying these midterms, and just sailing through. And for someone that I guess like is in your position in a way, would you, well, what would you say is like the biggest like, I guess, real estate advice that you ever gotten, other than like, hey,
Mm,
just like you get in there.
yeah. The best real estate advice I ever was given was it's very much who you know. It's all about the relationships.
Hmm.
And so I would say the most important thing is to get out there and to meet people, to go to your local meetups, to yes, listen to these podcasts, but like directly reach out to these people and talk to them, to be like, hey, like, this is who I am, this is what I'm trying to do. I appreciate this. And then try to add as much value to that person as possible. Like, that really is the secret to it, is if you do that consistently, that's where you're really going to find it. So it's all about relationships, but it does always boil back down to the daily consistent action of, I'm doing something every single day to add value to these people, to try and push myself to these goals, and to really realize that you can do it. Because so many people get stuck in the, like, I'm never going to be anything, and like, this is so hard, it's a mountain I've got to climb. Because real estate's so interesting because it gets easier as you go. Like, the hardest thing to do is get started, but once you get started, your properties by properties, and like, your relationships expand and everything compounds. And so it's just such a fun world to be in, because once you kind of get to that point where it's just a perpetual machine, that's when you can really step into more of like, what's your passion? Like, what do you want to do? Like, it becomes to a point where it's not about the profit. It's about helping people. Like,
Yeah.
I freaking love my job. I love being a real estate agent because I get to help people step in and start that dream, and like, hey, you're going to create something beautiful that's going to provide for these people, that's going to create this like awesome vacation that these people get to enjoy, and they're going to create these memories that are going to last a lifetime. Well, if you kind of look at just the, hey, you're doing this just to generate money and that's all you're trying to do with it, it just loses so much of its purpose. And so it's like, those are the people that I see that are not as successful. The people that take it and go like, hey, I'm trying to provide something for these people to like solve a problem. Those are like some of my most successful clients.
Wow. That's amazing. And
That's it, dude.
what's the biggest failure that you've had so far? And like it's like the biggest suck, and you're like you learned a lot from it.
Oh man. Biggest suck and biggest failure across the board. Man, there have been just so many things that I've fallen on my face on. Picking out just one is always hard, but like, I mean, this last year, for example, like, I bought 2 different properties where I found out later that I didn't own the road, like, going up to it. Like, they were privately owned roads that are like, one of them was like completely owned. The deed literally says unknown. And it's like, no one will take
What?
care of them. They're completely full of potholes. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be the king of knowing who owns the roads because of that. But like, it's little stuff like that, man. I haven't had one that just came in was like, this is an absolute complete dumpster fire. But because that's kind of always been like who I am. Like, I'm willing to step in and go like, if anyone can solve this problem, it's myself and my team, and we're gonna crush it.
Mhm.
But like, did I go $200,000 over on a rehab once? Yeah. Um, did I like buy properties that not have the roads that I own? Yes, I've done that. Did I buy properties that have termites and have wood rot and water damage? And yeah, I've done all that stuff. And so if you're in the game long enough and you buy enough really crappy houses, you're gonna figure that out. And so I do like to focus more on buying more turnkey, nicer properties now. But getting started, like a lot of times there's a reason people will owner finance you homes and like are a lot of times they're trying to give you stuff that they can't sell.
Yeah.
And so you learn a lot of lessons through that.
No, 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 you're right about that. And what are some tools and like softwares you use typically on a regular basis with your team or whatever, so that people have an understanding like, okay, I should be using these for my advantage, or like a Google Calendar to set up everything. Because when people listen to this, they're either they're young and they don't know about it, or they're old and they're just getting used to technology.
Mm, yeah, that's a great question. In regards to like our short-term rentals, some of our favorite softwares that we use is I use one called IGMS. It's just a property management software, and it's a channel manager, and it does like automated texts and whatnot. It does the automated check-in and check-out instructions. We use like smart locks. I use the August Connects and
Yeah.
like the Rio Link cameras, things like that. I would say there's so many softwares out there now to like automate a short-term rental. Like you can get Hospitable, you can get Guesty for hosts. Uh, what's the real big one that everybody loves? I can't think of it right now, but there's so much software out there to automate like short-term rental. But in regards to just like generating like leads and whatnot, like just a basic CRM works. Like I've got Podio that I use. It's not the greatest, but I'm able to customize it and use it for what I want. And so it's not great because I built it. But that's kind of the main stuff I use. I mean, majority of my deals have come straight from the MLS. And then other ones have just been driving for dollars and door knocking and talking to people.
Nice. I like that. You keep it simple. You're driving for dollars, whether it's on the MLS, and you have Podio as well. And can you explain how like a CRM works for people?
Oh yeah, it's just a relationship manager is all it is, a customer relationship manager. And so basically you're putting in information and you're setting reminders and things like that so that you'll remember to go out and storing data so you remember people's names and conversations you've had. And so yeah, there's so many of those out there on the market now, but it is important to have one if you're going to continually scale and grow. But I will say that like my best CRM I've found is really my cell phone. Like I talk to so many people that it's just a simple little trick. You can go to the very end of your text messages and start at the very bottom, and then just like message the bottom 5 people. It's like, hey, how are you doing? Like wanted to follow up. Like we talked forever ago about your property. Want to see if you're still in the market for selling, or just catching up with friends, or anything really. Like I love using my phone as a CRM. It's way too
Nice.
simple.
Nice. And is that a way for you to control your, I guess, like, how do you manage your team as well on that? Is the same way Podio and like your phone as well?
Yeah, I mean, my team, like we meet up in the office, so like we're all local guys, and like we just really kind of have this like we're going to tackle any project kind of mentality. And so we've got again, we use like Google Calendar and stuff like that too, and we've got spreadsheets and whatnot, and yeah, trying to
Nice.
keep it as simple as possible.
And okay, two more questions before we move on to the ending questions here. What do you believe a action someone can take to pay dividends for their future?
Read as much as you possibly can. Audible is your friend. Like listen to it at 1.5 speed, like download any like whatever platform you use to listen to podcasts, and just get out there and learn, because there's so much. I used to hate reading books, and
Yeah.
I cannot believe I was ever that way. Because I think I bought 6 books this week, and like there's so many things that you can learn from that, of just jump in there and learn as much as you can.
Yeah. I have to literally get rid of video games just so I can read more books.
There
That's
you go.
that's another thing. You start getting like there's so much knowledge in books and like podcasts that you're like, wow, there's something like this does exist. And people are living it too. It's like every time I read a book, I'm like, dude, someone spent their whole life writing this shit. And it's like, if I can just absorb it in like in a couple days, I think I'm better than them or something, right? Something has to happen because I just read all of his information. He put
I
it
mean,
all.
exactly. And like, I'm not a fan of like grind your life away. I'm not trying to say that, but
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of grind your 20s away, and like learn as much as you can. Do you want 10,000 hours playing Call of Duty, or do you want 10,000 hours learning a skill that is valuable and rare? And if you can do that in your 20s, from 20 to 30, just spend all your time learning that one skill, you're unstoppable. Nobody
On
else is going to do that.
I don't know. Call of Duty sounds easier. You just
Was it
No,
when I was playing it? They only had like Nazi zombies or something like that. That's all you could
yeah,
do.
man. I
They
think
still have that junk.
I don't know. The last time I played, I think it was like on on the PS4 with like I think Black Ops 3 is the last thing I played. And I just
Uh,
like uh again, I think I was like 18 at the time. Like, yeah, I gotta stop playing video games and actually like make my level myself up. Honestly, can I tell you a funny story?
please,
Uh
I'd love it.
so I don't tell people this, but what actually helped me, uh trigger my brain because I used to play video games all the time when I was a kid, right? Like I'm a whole nerd. And what actually triggered my brain to be like, okay, dude, it's time to level yourself up was I was playing GTA one day. And GTA is where I learned most of my business stuff, right? Like, hey, how to set up a team to do a heist, right? Or how to buy some properties here. Okay, I have this amount in my account. If I want to afford a tank, I got to do this. Like, so you might say like, hey, what was that book that you said by Jay Scott is Set for Life, right? You said Set for Life teaches that, but I think GTA 5 taught me
Scott
like
Trench.
yeah,
Scott Trench.
Scott Trench, my
Yeah.
bad. So like yeah, saving your money, like learn about money, but me living in this virtual world, I was like, okay, I need to have this amount of money set here. I need to make sure I can buy these Ferraris or whatever, these like Bugattis in this like virtual world. And then one day it just clicked in my head, like, why can't I just do this in real life, right? If I can make money in real life instead of playing this virtual game, I want to see how big I can get. So far, it's been fun, right? I set video games aside. I'm like, whoa. Uh, so far, playing video games in real life is pretty fun. I know you can't rob people. I mean, you can, but you'll go to prison.
Yeah, you
Uh,
definitely shouldn't do that.
yeah, yeah. But at the end of the day, it's like running a business. If you want to have people involved, you need to put the right people in the right position. Like I can't have a level 200. I can't have a level 10. Handle all my guns or whatever. I need to have like a level 200 and someone that knows what they're doing in that position and it's been playing that same game over and over again. And like, oh yeah, this is like a normal routine. Let me just go ahead and do it. So that's how I kind of imagine. And if I tell people I got my business tips from GTA 5, uh, just people are gonna listen to this. Like, okay, that's funny. You know what I mean?
They
Like,
start looking at you weird.
they're all looking at me like, no way you learn all your business stuff from a video game. I'm like, yeah, I did. It's like books do trigger it. Like, oh, I can relate it back to when I did that. Okay, that makes sense now. Sometimes, like, as a kid, you're like, okay, this is something will trigger in your head about that. But
That's hilarious. That's
yeah.
awesome.
And what is the biggest lesson you want people to understand?
Biggest lesson I want people to understand. Great question. I would say it does go back to the daily consistent action that if you want to be successful, like that's where you're going to find it. Setting habits to continually push yourself to success. If you want to, because you said the audience here is 26 to about 30. Is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
right? Okay. It really is about setting those habits of every single day that like I'm going to wake up a little bit earlier. I'm going to spend time just learning and trying to drive myself like where I want to go because you can do whatever you want. Like you can really crush it in this world, or you can sit there and twiddle your thumbs and play video games. Like there's so much potential out there, and so it's like you definitely can do it.
Nice. And now we can move on to the ending questions here.
Okay, here we
So,
go.
if you can go back in time and tell your younger self something, what would it be?
I would probably tell myself to start investing in real estate a little earlier. And yeah, that's what I do.
Nice. Before all the inflation and everything happens. Okay, I
That's it.
got you.
Before all the craziness, I'd say like, hey, jump in there and like, because like I had all the knowledge and like I sat on the sideline for 2 years because I was scared. I was like, nah, man, jump in there, get it going.
Yeah. And what question would you like to ask your future self? Like if he's listening to this 20 years later.
20 years later, oh gosh, I would like to know. Oh man, that is a really good question. I've never been asked that before. Number one, I'd like to know like how it all played out of like the craziness and the anxiety that I see now. Like, how did that resolve itself? And did I learn the lessons that I needed to learn, or am I still learning those same lessons? That's what I'd like to know.
Okay.
Is was I actually like man enough to step up and like walk through the pain and walk through the learning and like grow, or did I like push it all aside and run away? I'd like to know if I'm a coward or not.
Yeah. Okay, okay. Yeah, face the fire.
Then I can change it.
Hmm. And what do you think the secret sauce is into becoming very successful?
Secret sauce, back to the beginning, is daily consistent action.
Nice.
That's it, my
Daily
man.
consistent. I
I
love it.
know it's too easy.
And what is a quote that you live by?
I don't have like a set quote that I live by, but I would say that one thing that really stood out to me was David Green would continuously say, "It's so simple, but it's not easy." And it's like that was probably the thing that stuck with me most when I was in his mastermind of just like it would always come back to like we know how to do this, but it's so simple, it's not easy, and like be prepared for the hard stuff and embrace difficult. I'd say that's probably the main thing that I've been living by.
Okay. And can't even speak. You recommended books before earlier this podcast. Is there any other books that you recommend?
I do actually. I've got one recently that I've just thought was absolutely incredible. It's How to Live on 24 Hours a Day by Arnold Bennett. A really
Arnold
old
Bennett.
book. I think it was published in like 1908, and fantastic book. It's super short. It's like an hour and a half long, but it's about prioritizing your time and working on you.
Oh, okay. What's the main thing that you learned from there? Like the main nugget.
Mainly that like all of the lessons and the things that you hear, like there's veins for success. And so like you hear these things in all these new podcasts and all these new books, but it's like, hey, like all of these lessons, they're just older lessons. They've been recycled
Yeah.
and then repurposed, and then through that they've been presented in ways that I understand better. But the actual core of these lessons are like tried and true. And so it's just really cool to listen to a book that was like so old, but like so applicable even today.
Yeah.
Great book.
Wow. Nice. I feel that to so many books. I know a lot of big book readers, they'll say just read the old books. They have all the information. And the best self-improvement book, I guess, I would say any religious book, textbook that you can get a hand on, right?
Mm,
Whether the Bible, the Torah, the Quran, just pick one of those up. And literally, a lot of these things are originated from them, and that's why they kind of last now. You know what I mean?
mm.
It tells you kind of like how to live, and that's a more of a different topic of how to live and how to do all this stuff. But there's a lot of like self-improvement books. I think the last one I read was like, or the most recent one I read was like The Third Door, an amazing book, right? Uh, so can I explain to you what The Third Door is?
Yeah, please hit me with it.
So the first door, right? Get the audiobook, right? Just get the audiobook whenever you can. But the first door is you open it up and no. The first door, imagine like an actual like a dance club, right? To get inside the first door, you need to wait in line like everybody else, right? And a bouncer can kick you out anytime. Second door is all the VIPs. So you're not even allowed. You're not even good enough for that. So you can't even go in through that one. And the third door is figure out a way, break in through the back window, negotiate with the actual like the cook in the back that just saw you break in. Be like, hey, I'm here to whatever, right? So what it is that in real life you'll have the like people waiting in line. People already are just trust fund babies and they're very successful either way. And there's a third way where you have to figure it out, figure your shit out, figure out a way, uh, whether it's breaking through a window, whether it's because the author of this book, he was trying to interview all these people like Mark Zuckerberg, like Bill Gates, and he got arrested multiple times. He was just denied. He fought his way to Warren Buffett, like a big I forgot what Warren Buffett's company called, but it's like uh he got in there with like 30,000 people and he figured out ways to ask 4 questions, like things that you can figure out that nobody else will because they're too lazy to because if you really want it that bad, you'll figure out a way to get it. Like if you really want a property, you'll figure out creative financing to way to get it. If you really want to get rich, you'll figure out a way. If there's a will, there's a way, basically. And that's a
I love
great
it.
book. It's a
Oh,
great book.
fantastic.
Yeah. It's just a book that you really just want to listen to because it's like really like, wow, this guy is actually going through all this stuff. And I can relate because this guy's life sucks, right? He's just going up and down, up and down. And it's like, at least like, and the one thing that I did learn from that book is like net worth, right? If your net worth is like really huge, that you'll always have a problem that somebody else can solve, right? Or
Mm,
somebody already has solved. And all you got to do is talk to them about it and they'll figure it
interesting.
out for you. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, if you can get that book, get it, man. That's a
I
good
love it,
book.
man. Hey, I got Audible credit. I'm doing
Yeah.
it right now.
Oh yeah, and also get my book too. You know what I mean? It's called The Ivory.
Oh yeah, of
It's
course.
an amazing book. You know.
Make
uh,
sure you get the plug in.
yeah, the plugin. You know what I mean? uh, I haven't plugged it in any podcast, so this probably be like the first podcast I plugged it in. But is there any? Okay. Uh, first I can't even speak right now. I'm running out of energy in my throat.
Oh,
But
good man.
is there anything that you would like to tell your father, right? If he's listening to this podcast?
Mm. Yeah, just that I love him, that he's the man. My number one supporter, like he's one of the main reasons I'm here now. And so super appreciative of him and like still invest with him, like absolutely love him. And so thanks.
Nice, nice. And how can people reach out to you, and what values can they give back? God,
Great question. Easiest way in all honesty to get me is on Facebook. Just shoot me a message. It's a joke. Just look up Joe Prillaman. But main value right now is I am trying to go out there and continue to grow my portfolio. And so if you know anyone that's like interested in short-term rentals, that is in either the Banner Elk area, the Carolina Beach area, also invest in Winston-Salem and Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And so anyone that is interested in those areas, reach out to me. I want to talk to you. And yeah, I just want to be kind of an open resource to help people do that. And yeah, reach out and connect.
nice. And thanks again, Joe, for hopping on to the podcast.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate it.